For starters, you can call him Rob, lest you mistake him for Bob, his dad. That's Bob on the right. He's the U.S. Senator, former mayor of Union City, and in Hudson County especially, big time, as they used to say. But the fact that the senator's son has been basically handed a seat in Congress has little to do with that, says the current congressman, Rob Menendez, would succeed.
Why should we penalize him for having a name like Menendez? I don't know anyone out there that can match his, what he brings to the district.
Rob, huh? You don't think anyone's going to notice?
Notice what?
The name, Rob Menendez, Robert Menendez.
Well, it's the name I was given by both my mother and my father. I'm excited to be on the show today.
I will say that there has been criticism of your race. Some people have said that this seat was all but handed to you because of who your father is, that this is some of the worst of New Jersey politics, some of the criticism that we've heard. What do you say to that?
Sure. So, we were the first in this race to declare our candidacy, and we've been working it hard every single day. We started today at about 7 a.m. And got here after polls closed at 8 o'clock. That's been the last several weeks on this campaign, and that's the way we've ran this campaign since day one.
Rob Menendez is an attorney with a big-time law firm, just recently appointed by the governor. He's the one on the left, next to Rob's father, to the powerful Port Authority Board of Commissioners, and now endorsed by Governor Murphy and just about every other elected official in Hudson. And in Hudson, where it's like 9-1 Democrats, the guy the party bosses like for the seat is the guy who gets the seat.
Okay.
So you know what people are saying, right? Senator's son, insider, endorsed by the governor just days after announcing. They're saying that the path to this seat has been cleared for you. Are people wrong?
For somebody to come outside of the system, you're gonna now run up against the governor, the senators, every local machine that's going to line up. So you're at a tremendous organizational, financial, legitimacy standpoint disadvantage, because now this heir apparent has inherited the line, which means that he walks into election day with 35% of the vote. If you and I were to run a mile, but I say I can only start running once you've run 2/3 of the way, you might not find that to be a fair race.
Listen, ultimately, like I said earlier, it's about the primary in June. There's other announced candidates for the primary. I know how I feel, David. This is a moment to be actively engaged, to raise your hand and say, what can I do to benefit the people who call this district home? So those are the conversations I'm having, continuing to engage in the community.
Hector Oseguera has been there. He tried unsuccessfully to unseat Sires in the Democratic primary in 2020. The latest, best example of the power party officials have to control and some suggest subvert democracy.
Look, I don't know Robbie Menendez from a hole in the wall. But if we look at that district, it's like it would be an awesome place to recruit a fantastic candidate, or to have a real primary where you have you expose the array of different points of view within the Democratic Party, all of which are super relevant right now. So it's a shame. It's actually just a real shame.
To have a successful outcome in June.
But on the line itself, the concept of the party determining ballot positioning, I'm sure there's a court case making its way through the courts right now. Do you have an opinion on that system?
It's going to continue to work its way through the court system. It's actually being handled by classmates of mine from Rutgers Law, where I graduated in 2011. But listen, I'm focused on June. I'm focused on giving people a reason to vote for me. I'm excited about that opportunity. I think this is just a unique moment in our country's history.
Patricia Campos Medina just recently wrote an op-ed about the need for more women in politics. She says the party apparatus often works against the interest of voters, particularly in places like Hudson, where a seat in Congress can be a lifetime gig.
Robert Menendez Jr. could be a good congressman, but it is for him to be able to prove it to voters. It is for voters to be able to evaluate his skills and to make an argument to the voters that he is the best person for the job. Primary election is able to do that for candidates.
Menendez was mentioned for a few minutes as a potential candidate to challenge Steve Fulop for mayor in Jersey City last year, but that effort sputtered. There was a sense among some community members he talked to that he was maybe looking for an easier campaign to run.
The work we do is credible, and so we just don't want to just tag along, someone who just came up on the scene. We want to see somebody just write and challenge and kind of push back. We want fighters.
Menendez officially announced his candidacy last week, and we haven't heard back from him yet. His reps say he was too busy for interviews this week. It'll be up to voters, technically, to determine whether they want the senator's son to be their favorite son. I'm David Cruz, NJ Spotlight News.
New Jersey has not sent a Republican to the Senate since 1972, but it might this year, despite the unpopularity of President Bush and the war in Iraq. In towns across New Jersey, like here in Summit, voters have been wrestling with a close race between a candidate who was an early opponent of the Iraq War and one whose name is practically state political royalty. Sensing their only chance to take a Senate seat away from the Democrats, national Republicans are channeling money into the campaign of Tom Kean Jr., the namesake of the revered former governor who chaired the 9/11 Commission. Kean has hammered relentlessly on the theme of corruption, insisting Robert Menendez, appointed last year by Governor John Corzine to fill Corzine's unexpired Senate term, is under an ethical cloud.
It's you, the taxpayers, who are being asked to pay more at every level of government because these deals are going on. We need to root out corruption at every level of government. It's one of the reasons I'm running for the United States Senate.
Well, no, I won't admit that it's dirty, nasty New Jersey politics. I will admit that it's dirty, nasty Tom Kean Jr. politics.
Menendez, who as congressman voted against the war in Iraq 4 years ago, has taken every opportunity to tie Kean to the president and the war.
Even though the events of the last 2 years have largely discredited George Bush's position on Iraq, Tom Kean Jr. still stands with him.
I've clearly said that there have been horrendous mistakes made by this administration in the war in Iraq, and I've called for Secretary Rumsfeld's resignation.
Pre-election polls in the state give Menendez a slight lead, but the race is one of a handful of Senate contests labeled too close to call.
Well, I'm going to vote for Mr. Kean.
How come?
Because of all the publicity that Menendez has gotten. Poor publicity.
The corruption stuff?
Yes.
The investigation stuff?
Yeah, that's really turned me off from him.
I think I'm going to vote Democratic.
And that's because?
I actually heard Menendez speaking on the radio yesterday, and I didn't disagree with anything that he said.
And then there's the wild card, gay marriage. The New Jersey Supreme Court ruled recently that the state discriminates against same-sex couples by not allowing them to marry. It's unclear whether the issue could energize dispirited social conservatives who usually vote Republican. Warren Levinson, The Associated Press, Summit, New Jersey.